So call this meeting to order on August the 22nd. Bob, will you do the invocation?
Sure. Lord, we are grateful to be here, to be able to do the things that are of good welfare for this county. Lord, be with us and give us wisdom in order to discern those things that are right and wrong, and help us to make the decisions that will be good for this county. We're always mindful of the sacrifice that your Son made upon the cross and the fact that we have eternal life through him. Be with us as we go forward the rest of this day and keep us safe. We ask this in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
So the next item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. I so move.
Can you add
Second.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Under new business, can you add an item B to discuss consultants for review of the county's EOC? And Bob will go into more detail, me and Bob will.
So I'll make a motion that we add that to the agenda. Bob, will you?
Second.
So we add that item to the agenda. Thank you.
Where's that going to go?
We're going to put it at, under new business, item B.
Under new business, okay. Okay.
Okay, so then we go back to, can I get an approval for the agenda?
Second.
So moved. Recognition of the public. Have anyone that would like to speak? All right, so next we have approval of the minutes from May 16th.
So moved.
I agree. We approve the minutes from May. So the next item is the report of the committee chairman. I have no report. And then we have the report of the consultant. The floor is yours.
I'm just, rather than get them off first, I'm just gonna let you do that.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sure y'all can do that quicker.
I'll start.
Okay, I believe this was sent out with your agenda. You may have already looked through this, so I'm just gonna hit the high spots. It's important to note that this report is through July because we're not finished with August yet, so we don't have those reports to put on here. So we are just one month into the new year in July. And obviously, there's no large losses yet, thankfully. There hadn't been something so big and just immediately hit. So there's nothing there going into the next year. It's important to look at the bottom just below that about the stop loss fund, and that it looks like it's going to increase about $20,000 a month. And again, what that is, a few years back, we did a 10-year study, and the trust has agreed that after moving to $500,000 stop loss, that it just made more sense to start accruing those premium dollars in your own account and keep them and build a reserve specifically to do that yourself. And it looks like this year you're going to go over $1 million in that fund. So that's over $1 million that would have been in the pockets of an insurance company for which you would have got hardly anything back. So.
How many, you said a few years back, I mean, this is a terrific decision that someone made.
Right.
Have we made this, have we compiled this over 3 years, 5 years? What is a few years back? I mean, it was a wonderful decision.
I think it's 3.
The actual study we did was 10-year period of having stop loss.
You look back 10 years, yeah.
Yeah, and David,
He's asking how many years. I believe this is our 4th year we're starting.
4th year.
I think we're starting our 4th year right now.
Wow.
It could be,
This is
it could be
great.
the 5th, but
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And this, to note, this is the net amount in there, so he's taken out any claims that would have been covered.
Yes,
So that's
understand.
I believe I'm correct that we had, since we did that, we have not had a claim go over, or maybe one slightly.
We might have had one, and it was a little bit,
But
but
it still didn't get to 6. It's
historically
still-
we've had very few.
between 500 and 600. So that difference would have been paid out of this, and this is
I understand.
reduced by whatever that was, so.
Yeah.
And I think the coverage was $1 million max anyway, wasn't it? So we've almost got the amount that was the max.
Well, the aggregate is, which we dropped a long time ago, there's actually two different kinds of stop loss for a self-funded plan. There's specific and there's aggregate. And specific is just what it indicates. Each claim, each individual's claims on the plan, when it exceeds X dollars, stop loss will give you that money back above that cap. And that cap, when you stopped, was $500,000. You get everything back over that, was a premium for that. The aggregate I mentioned is really for a pretty small group, because what it does is when all the claims under the stop loss, you pay out an amount that they set a number, then you get back everything also over those amounts up to, the aggregate's the only one with a limit, and that is $1 million. Once they reimburse $1 million, you don't have any coverage. So we dropped that quite a while back.
Yeah, this is fabulous, 3 years, and thank you for explaining.
We've almost got the aggregate.
I know, I see that.
Yeah.
Great.
And we took quite a bit of flack when that first happened, especially from the broker community, because,
It's a bit risky at the beginning,
well, yeah, but everything's a risk.
but
It's
if you have
just-
10 years of history, you're
Yes.
solid.
I mean, it's based on numbers. It wasn't like, I think we ought to do this. And of course, brokers, agents didn't like it because they can't sell stop loss, which they make a 15–20% commission on. So it's big dollars to them, but we don't work for insurance companies. Insurance companies don't sign our checks. Y'all do. So we're only gonna do what's in your best interest and the plan's best interest, which ultimately affects the employee. So that's why this has been such a good arrangement. We appreciate your trust in us, since the 1980s, I think.
If you did have a huge claim that was reoccurring, the reinsurance generally lasers it out the following year anyway, means they don't cover it. So
Right.
really, it's very hard for us to come ahead on that reinsurance, almost impossible. Because if you get something that was year after year, we'd reset on the $500,000 it would be lasered, so it would be disallowed anyway, almost always.
So now you're borrowing from yourself, paying yourself interest.
That's not bad.
That sounds like a good deal.
Yep,
to me.
that's a good
I think it's a
deal.
good deal.
And again, this report, it's not gonna tell you a lot. It'll tell you everything about prior to July 1 of this year. With the graph will, because we like a linear look at this as well, because this goes back, these statistics go back to 2010, 2011. So this is a pretty good look at the trends of your plan. And there's been a couple of significant things that's happened on this graph. One is when you actually install the wellness benefit. That's when you started requiring certain things and managing chronic disease. We brought the clinics in and to be able to do that. And another significant thing was when the schools broke away from this plan on their own. And that was January 1 of 15. So since then, we have no idea how that plan's doing, or we don't do anything with that. We're not associated with that at all, with the school's health plan.
Who are considered classified employees as far as the county?
We don't have that.
They don't
Okay,
have it.
well, I
That's
just
a
noticed that
deal.
right
The
there.
schools have classified.
Yeah, I know they do, but I
They're
just,
certified and
The
classified.
schools only had their classified employees over here. Their certified employees wasn't
Yeah.
part of the plan, so they were just the non-teachers or non-teaching staff or non-certified.
yeah, I just,
Yeah, I know what you're asking now.
I
We
just-
didn't have all the schools here. We just had part of the schools here.
yeah, I just wondered who,
Yeah.
and since that little note was down there, I thought, I didn't know the county had classified employees.
That's referring to the education
Okay.
when they were here.
Okay, are there any questions on this report? And I don't know if I mentioned, but Brittany misses not being here. Believe it or not, she missed missing a meeting, but she is taking some well-deserved time away. She's visiting a friend out of town for a few days, and this was one of those days. So I got an email with 14 reports and a bunch of emails, correspondences with folks. So if I'm missing something, just, you're not going to embarrass me or whatever. Just call it to my attention and we'll figure it out. Okay. The other thing to report, other things to report on, is the ASA, or the Administrative Services Agreement, which is in layman's terms a contract between you and Blue Cross. In other words, when they process your claims, there's a charge for that. There's a charge built into that for the use of their networks, which lowers your costs and some other services. So that agreement has to be redone every year. And it is almost complete. I understand that it's been sent back to Blue Cross for 1 or 2 days.
I just sent it over to our legal department, so once they make request a correction on it, and they send it back to me, I'll forward it over to you guys.
Okay. Well, since for y'all not to have another meeting, is it appropriate for you to?
I generally sign those, Bob, because, and the committee approved several years ago if it was something like that, for me to go ahead and sign it if it agrees with the rates. Right now, the only thing we've got is some of the terms legal. It doesn't want the terms or wants some term changes. It's not the rates. The
Right.
rates agree as far as
Right.
I recall. We'll verify the rates to the minutes, and then once the terms are done through legal, generally I just sign it for the committee. We can have the mayor to sign it if you prefer, but either one can sign on the county's behalf. Person's having another meeting.
Yeah, I don't wanna have another meeting. Is it possible that, I'm good with you signing it. If Bob is, I
Yeah.
would just like to look at it at some point
So basically what we'll
to see
do,
the change.
we'll verify the rates to what you guys approved. It's the same, I guess, terms we've had for years, just legal wanted a few, they had a few issues with some of the terms. Not about the way they were processed, but things like, I don't know, probably if there was a dispute resolution, things of that nature. I think there was like maybe 5 or 6 points, is that correct?
I think so.
Just point out, it's a 79-page document. And Brittany's been through it with a fine-tooth comb. And,
He had very few issues with it. It was just, I think, a lot of
Yeah.
dispute resolution.
I've got the correct
I'm good to
copy in
approve
there.
that you continue to approve it, and I just ask that after the fact you give us a short summary of what changed.
Okay. It'll be the rates mainly.
Yeah,
just the terms.
and the little terms that you mentioned.
Well, we'll just have forward the email that Jessica sent to him for the changes from them legal. We can do that.
Yeah, just a summary.
We'll just send you the agreement with the signature, and the rates will be on there. We can tell you those, and then we'll send you the emails where they went back and forth between legal and Blue Cross and these.
And then, yeah, I don't anticipate we would have any trouble with that.
Yeah.
I so move.
Second.
And the other comment is on another 3-letter acronym, an EOC, which is an explanation of coverage. That needs to be looked at because there are things that happen, the government passes little changes to whatever. We need to make sure that when you send something to your employees, says, here's what you're covered for, that there's not a gotcha in there that somebody missed, that's changed a little bit or whatever. And I understand all of those, you have 4 of those. You have one for vision, one for dental, one for option 1 of your health, and one for option 2 of your health. So you have 4 EOCs. And it's my understanding there's only one, the dental or vision. Didn't you say there was
There's one thing that we're working on to change it for health
For
or
dental.
dental.
dental? Okay. The other 3 are actually already
They look
complete,
good.
right? And those are also rather large documents.
But that's one I want to discuss under B2 also,
Yeah, that's,
more detail.
but this is what the employee goes to when they want to find out if something's covered or not covered.
And just a matter of procedure here at the county. Do the employees all have a link to these documents?
It's on the
They're on the
website.
website.
And they're all notified?
We have hard copies too.
Give them a hard copy when they start.
We have a new, part-time VSO, and I was just speaking to him in the hallway, he had a hard time finding his benefit package.
He's not eligible for health,
He was concerned about the other lady that was working over there, she's, looking at some health insurance things, and he was trying to help her. So he was just mentioning that it was hard to,
The lady that's full-time.
and I'm not trying to solve that I'm just saying, I just wanna make sure it's available. and
We can check with her to
everybody.
make sure, yeah.
And not just her, just, everybody in general. that
Well, there's a couple of things. Brand new employees will receive their EOC. The EOC with any changes are on the website, and we usually send out emails when there is changes. And then number 3, there's the number on the back of the card for Blue Cross. And years ago, it was determined, which is probably the best practice, is if you've got a question about your claim or something, we always recommend that they call the number on the back of the card versus try to go through us, because what will all happen, they'll go to us, we'll call the 1-800 number, and then we're passing secondhand information back and forth. So really, the 2 things we'll do is one on the EOC, and if she's got questions about a specific claim, we always recommend you call the number on the back of your card. Because I believe it just creates more confusion if we kind of pass through. Because basically what we'll do is we'll just call Blue Cross will call us, and we'll pass the information back and forth. And then a lot of times we even have trouble getting into their information. So it's really made to call the number on the back of the card. But yeah, we'll have Amy, if that's all right, Amy contact her after this meeting.
And not all our employees have email addresses. So that's the way we're distributing the information isn't 100%.
We send it to the department head
Yeah.
to try to get them.
So they should let
They
their
should
employees
let
know.
And the reason some of that issue exists is because we've got multiple emails from different, like Sheriff, I think, has their own exchange servers, if I'm not mistaken, that's part of it. So having multiple IT departments is part of it.
Just so we make sure everybody has it.
So we send it to the department heads, and then we still run into the issue, they don't always get passed.
I know, that's what I'm having trouble with.
The only way we've really got a good way to distribute stuff is through one-to-one, but they're not involved in our health, that portion, they're not involved in the clinics, they'll actually send emails, because I got, by my wellness, I've got an email and 3 phone calls already. So they do pretty good, I'll be honest, because I've been gone, but they've been really good trying to get a hold of me. I've just been out of town, and I got an email the other day that was really, it told me what to do and how long I had, and so they send it out for the wellness, but as far as our EOC, we don't have a really good way to get it out other than through the email that we have and through the department, because we don't have a system-wide email we can send. We've asked IT. The issue is because some of them has their own exchange servers.
I'll see if I can
Over time.
talk to that department maybe. It's just the legal requirements that I want to make, Bob saying that, we need to make sure everybody knows, and I just want to make sure everybody knows.
Right, just a little, forgive me for doing this, but a little background to fill in. Before we had the ability to do that online, it was always a practice. You'd have booklets printed up, and you'd give a booklet to an employee, say, here's your coverages, okay? And some well-meaning employee says, oh, great, fine. They go in their work truck and they throw it over the back seat. And then they have a problem, and they go looking for a book, and they find a book, but they don't bother to look at the date. And they go through, well, this is covered. And you get into an issue. So we don't have near that problem now, since we keep an up-to-date copy right there on the internet. But it's important that the employees understand, look, if you're looking at a book, look at the date. That's critical, okay? Slightest change could cause a problem for them. The second piece of that is, you handed them a book, and you also handed them another book which said, these are all the doctors and hospitals in your network. That changes daily.
There's a link for that.
These people just,
I recommend they call the 1-800 number, even though you look at the EOC, you look at your network. Before you do any procedure, and your doctors, a lot of them are required to get prior approval on certain things, so.
right,
Your best practice is to call the 1-800 number on the back of your Blue Cross Blue Shield card.
yes. Or
They have
look on
operators there, they can answer your questions, they can tell you if something needs to be pre-authorized, they can go into a lot more detail than even what's on your EOC.
Yeah. What I do is I tell an employee, if I'm brought into the conversation, I say, you need to contact with the insurance company to verify your doctor is in there. And then, when you get to the doctor on your appointment, ask them if they're still in the network. It happens.
And ask Blue Cross if it requires prior authorization or anything, and make sure they have it.
Right.
Before they decide to move on and don't have, because Because on Blue Cross, they can look up our plan pretty easy once you call. They have people there, and they can tell you what's covered, if there's prior authorization, and they can tell you if the prior authorization's even been done. So the best policy, if you've got any questions, to call the 1-800 number on the back of the Blue Cross Blue Shield card.
And I would fail if I didn't end with telling you this, because it's happened several times through the years. There will come a situation when an employee feels like, for whatever circumstance, although your plan doesn't cover it, they feel like it needs to be covered. Well, if you're self-funded, you can do that. If you vote to do it, you can vote to cover it. We never agree with that, because it sets up a precedent. Because if you do it for them, not only do you have to do it for the next person, you have to make a subjective judgment, are these two things the same? You can get in deep trouble real quick.
If you do it in the middle of the year, you may not find it. That was years ago an issue that I cautioned them about. They would do changes in the middle of the year after actuarial funding's being done. So if you had a significant amount of coverage, you suddenly got an unfunded cost through there. Going to eat your reserves or end up in a deficit and have to deal with it next year. You can do that as self-insured. Now, if you're fully insured, Blue Cross would have an issue with
Right,
it.
yeah,
Because
it's
they
just
were-
not gonna happen. So I just wanted to point those things out, because they're really critical. That's me, I'm done.
Excellent. Thank you. That was very informative. 1-to-1?
Ashley and Ryan are traveling today for work, so they sent me. We'll just go over, I left these out. You can see the clinic site usage year to date, which would really be for July, or through June. Schaefer Clinic was the top used, and there were 194 for behavioral health. The top clinic visits were walk-ins with 329, as well as telehealth, and then going down from there. Patient satisfaction, Q1 was 99.28, and Q2 was 97.90. And then the wellness part, that shows the 2022 compliant, so 394 employees and then 180 spouses. So far for 2023, we've had 101 physical uploads, 37 of those are compliant, and we are uploading those daily.
I'm sorry, what is an upload?
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
So you can go into our clinics to actually do the full annual physical, and we upload those biometrics into our wellness portal.
Okay.
We did the HRA events last week, so you also see those numbers, 2022 numbers compared to this year. We can tell that more people are taking advantage of the annual physicals in clinic, but we still had a very large turnout, which was great, of 292 for the whole week. On the next page, this is just what was sent to everybody for the wellness plan. The deadline for the annual physicals is September 30th, and then they have to do the health coaching based on the benchmarks if missed. So far, as of yesterday, there are 82 in-clinic annual physicals scheduled. There are 57 are employees and 25 are spouses. That does not include any outside provider visits that are doing annual physicals. The next one is text care. So we launched this in January with the Board of Education. Basically, they can text the 855 number from their cell phone, do med refills, sick visits. From that visit, if the provider deems it necessary to be a face-to-face, they can turn it into, basically, it's a FaceTime call. We have succeeded with this, and it is only getting busier. There's 24/7 providers on for text care, so it's 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is. The monthly fee for that for the Board of Education would be $70 a month.
Per person?
No, I think it's just $70.
Okay.
I can verify that, but I'm almost positive it's only 70 because I think we
That seems
pay.
very cheap.
That's just is that just the fee for the software?
That is the fee for the software.
Not the people answering.
Okay, not
Correct.
up here.
Right,
Right, it's not, but those probably cut down on regular businesses.
Yeah.
right.
So I'm way out on that too.
So if that's something that you guys would be interested in, you do not have to make a decision today, just let us know and we can start. We actually probably have reached out to some government. Did you get a text message? No? Okay. So our clinics as well are, so if it's a new patient or if it's a sports physical or anything like that, we're sending them a text message with the paperwork so they can go ahead and complete it and send it directly back to us. So that kind of saves time as well in clinic. So everybody's not sitting there filling out paperwork.
So what does it cost the county to do the text messaging? Is it $70 a month too?
Yeah, I think it's, for the government, it's $70. It would be $70 a month, because I think our staffing and everything is already included as far as pass-through and stuff.
So does that mean the schools are paying $500?
Yes, the schools pay the greater amount, because y'all are split, right?
And where's the 500, what, the 500 that Bob's speaking of?
So,
Or-
That's what.
correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's.
Oh, right here, this one.
If
Okay.
it's $500, then the government's paying the 84%, and then,
Whether we pay the smaller percentage.
right, y'all
They
pay.
pay 86.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the monthly fee for us would be $70
Would be $70.
versus the $500.
And the schools have already voted to do that.
Yes, we started with the Board of Education in January, kind of did them as a test run, just to make sure that everything's,
So right now, our employees, the non-school board, they're sick, they don't have access to the number. They would just do a walk-in the next morning.
they can do a walk-in, they can call, they can book online, they can do telehealth.
So they can, this is just adding.
This
the
is an
text.
additional feature.
Just adding, so they could call, will they get somebody if they call, it's midnight and they call?
Yeah, we
They'll get
have
somebody.
24/7 telehealth care as well.
So they can call and, when they do this text, I understand that it's $70 for us for the software. Is there an additional charge for them? Is there any additional
No.
charge?
No.
That's just it, we're just adding a feature.
Right.
For $70, that's
Right.
really reasonable.
Now there's pass-through staffing, so.
Yeah, because the staffing is already passed through, and we already have the staff
So
available, so,
we will be charged for the additional staff time.
yeah.
If there's more.
Okay,
If
that's
there's
my
any-
question.
Yeah.
But we're already charged if I call, if I pick up
Right.
the phone and call, I'm gonna
Exactly.
get a charge anyways.
Right.
So if you use this instead of going in, then you're gonna have less staff time in the clinics, but you'll have more staff time on this, so it's probably not a significant increase when you weigh
Right.
the two across.
Right.
If you're doing text versus going in, it's maybe cheaper in the long run.
Or opposed to calling on the phone, because I can do that,
Mhm.
call,
We're gonna have the staff available regardless.
yeah. All right. Bob, discussion, what are your thoughts?
No, that's fine. What's your picture on the back? The X-ray.
Okay, so, X-ray, we started building this out. It is only gonna be at Ellis, which is in Hendersonville. For right now, we gotta see how busy we're gonna be with X-rays, but the savings versus sending someone to Premier Radiology, we'll be able to do X-rays on site. Everything has been completed, we're waiting on Kelly X-ray to come out and actually install the equipment. We've already started this to the Board of Education. We've already purchased all of the equipment. There's a tax exempt, so we got that the equipment itself tax exempt, so that saved about $7,000. So that, we're hoping to open up, not really sure. So if they're gonna install next week, and then we've gotta trying to find an X-ray tech to be able to do that, has been difficult, but we are working very hard to get someone hired.
If you're gonna do the texting and you guys agreed, you might wanna do a motion and vote on it though.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, you probably need to do an actual physical motion and vote
So-
on it. For the texting, if you wanna move
For
forward.
discussion, Bob, do you want more time to think about texting, or do we want to make discuss it and decide?
Doesn't seem like that big of a cost, at least to us, $70. Is that a month or a year?
A month.
With Board of Ed being on, have you had a good response from their employees? Are they,
Yes.
how much are they using it?
I could get you exact numbers, but it is used, and I will say, like, with school teachers and stuff, if you think, like, since it's really back in school, it's picked up a lot more, because they're in the classroom, they want to text, handing them a medication refill. It's been quite a hit, but I could get you exact numbers, because we do run those as well.
My thought is if they're doing the text for the refill the medication versus a full-blown appointment, in the long run, it may save us a little bit there. Because right now for refills, they're doing full-blown appointments, I think.
Correct, you have to have an appointment for a med refill, however, with this, you would not, we still are gonna require people, you can't just constantly get your meds refilled over text message, I mean, that's just not good patient care. But if it's just like a 3-month refill, then we can do that.
I like the idea, and it's very reasonable. If it turns out that we find that the employees don't use it, can we stop
Yeah.
anytime? Yeah. I motion that we
Second.
agree to, the text, adding the text feature. With the X-ray, it seems like I recall we've talked about that in the past. Did we decide to go with that last time? I believe we voted on that then.
So you guys have already.
Yeah, I thought so. I just wanna make sure that's covered.
I believe it was last
She's
year's
just-
Discount.
meeting.
You're just updating us.
Yeah, I was just updating on.
I just wanted to double
everything
check. I
that's-
thought we had discussed that.
Yeah, it was
approved.
$11,200 y'all approved it last
Yeah,
night.
I thought so. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the report of the finance director.
We are still in the process of closing our books. They will be closed by August 31st, but we have preliminary financials right now. Looking at the end of the year, both of the funds, especially the health, picked up a fairly significant amount of reserves. As we're saying, it appears the plan's working well and smoothly at this point. And then, based on July's preliminary, it looks like we're following the same trend. It looks like a 1% increase in the premiums was definitely adequate at this point. It was a small increase, but it seems like it was adequate based on our year end in the first month of July. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. We have no items under old business. We move to new business. The first item is Gallagher Business Associate Agreement.
This was sent down for me to sign from HR. Gallagher, a couple of years ago, I believe, became our, what's it called, for, broker for, US Able. But I don't believe it ever went to this board, so when they sent it down for me to sign, my recommendation is sent to the board and let everybody discuss kind of how we got here and approve if they're a broker or not at this point. I believe I had Miss Allison to, email Gallagher, but we did it on kind of a late, a quick note. She was an Amy, I'm sorry. So the lady that's actually our representative is out of town, so I recommend we defer this to next meeting. Let them come down and discuss the whole situation with you guys.
What are they broker for?
It's for our optional products for US Able. Like if you go and buy an optional additional amount of life or emergency room or cancer policy, they were the ones that were doing or they still are doing our vision, and then they were charging us a fee to do the vision, but I believe the fee disappeared and they became the broker for our US Able. They've sent it down for me to sign, but since it never really completely went through the committee, I wasn't comfortable signing. It came through HR and then HR sent it to me. And it's been sitting with me for, a while now. So I was thinking something really the committee probably needs to take up and talk to Gallagher, what they're offering and everything else. Then if everybody's comfortable at that point, I can sign the agreement. But I don't feel comfortable signing it if it's never been through the physical board that I'm aware of. We'll come back to the minutes.
Is that a service that we compare other options?
I can give you the long-term kind of what happened. Several years back, we were giving, was it $200, Bob, for vision? When the Affordable Care Act came about, it was determined that giving the $200 from Blue Cross determined that, and I think we were in concurrence with them. That the $200 could not be administered or done that way any longer. At the time I went out and I think I got a quote through Blue Cross Blue Shield for USA when nobody wanted the vision insurance. At that time, we lost vision. It was probably for a period of maybe 3, 4, 5 years. It was several years. Several years later, Mr. Holt brought back, I think they weren't Gallagher at the time, they were called Spy Point. Brought back as a consultant to look at our vision insurance. They brought back, I think it was very similar to the original ones I received. And the board voted at the time for them, I believe, to be a consultant and to do the vision, if I recall properly, but I haven't looked at the minutes. Later, they were actually became the broker for US Able and no longer became the consultant. But from the consultant to the broker, I don't know if that ever went through this board. I think it may have just went through the mayor's office. So when it was sent down from HR for me to sign the broker agreement, that's been sitting in my office for several months, and my best determination was to send it down to the committee and let them deal with it.
So I would like to defer it to the next meeting if
Second.
Commissioner Brown's in agreement, but I'd also like to hear if we have any options for any competitors.
You mean for the vision?
Yeah, for the vision.
Well, right now we're getting it through US Able, and it is an exact same bill rolled up into our health insurance, so I wouldn't recommend breaking those apart.
Don't break it apart.
For one, it's gonna change people's coverage, and number two, if we make a whole separate policy, then right now we've got, about 400 employees, 400. So we would
I
end
don't
up.
want to disrupt any.
Well,
any of
we
that.
would basically need,
No,
we'd
I'm just
probably,
wondering.
we'd probably end up with like a quarter of an employees, of a staff member to actually reconcile the 400.
Can we look ahead at some point in the future when that it wouldn't cause a break and
I
see
wouldn't-
if we're doing the right thing?
I wouldn't recommend breaking it, I would recommend
Ever.
looking at your coverages. Because if you
Okay.
break them into separate, you're gonna break it completely away from the Blue Cross Blue Shield, and then you're gonna have a different card. You're gonna have another set of whole bills with like 400 people on it to reconcile, which is costly for the county. And you're gonna end up with the people that are currently on there. If anything, I would probably visit the coverage limits because it actually flows through Blue Cross Blue Shield through USA. Well, I think Blue Shield, or does it just flow directly through Blue Cross? I think it flows directly
Just
through
through
Blue
Blue
Cross.
Cross.
And it is we, as far as employees can tell, it's one plan because we charge them one premium, but Blue Cross treats it as 2 different plans.
Mhm.
So you do have a lot of flexibility, but the only reason I say it's the best policy for us to keep them together is because right now it ends up with one bill, which is much simpler. We pay one amount. If not, then we're gonna have a whole new set of, actually a whole new 2 sets of bills up there to deal with, and our biggest group too. That was one of the reasons we were saying it that way.
I think it would be important for the trust to know if it's necessary to have a broker with USA Bank, or if you can purchase that direct.
We were doing it direct, but one time had no broker. And they gave up their consulting fees when they became the broker. But, when I can get Amy to go back to the minutes, I don't remember that ever going through this committee. That's why when it was sent down for me to sign that,
Before me.
I didn't sign off on that. And I could just be mistaken. We'll get her to go back and look at the whole minutes.
So as broker, they're looking at all different types of,
They get a percentage fee off of USA, but they offer some services as far as helping the employees if they have questions, but I don't think they're utilized much.
I don't think we utilize that, no. We use them a lot for questions with the 125.
And stuff like that, so we do use them. So to be honest, we use Gallagher. US Able, we used to ask them questions, but they're not really equipped to do that, so Gallagher, which is their brokers, we ask them a lot of section 125
so they're more
questions.
consulting than.
But they're doing it for the fees as being a broker for US Able. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just saying before I would sign on, I want the committee to talk to them and approve it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong or inappropriate or anything wrong with what we're doing. I'm just saying I don't want to move forward till I'm sure the board's approved it some way.
So I motion that we defer it, and I'd like to maybe come by and understand more the benefits. So that when they do present, I'll understand more the financial.
Other than the
And the benefits
vision,
piece.
other than the vision, the part of the benefit, they're dealing with the vision, which is offered with their health, and then they're dealing with the optional plans that we offer, which would be like your cancer, emergency room, short-term disability. Trying to think, and we've got a whole lot of them.
That policy
And
on it.
we'll just sit down for a little while.
But that's what I'm saying, if we
Before
bring, right, but I'd like to have the representative here to kind of describe what they're
Yeah.
giving to you for the fees and make sure the board has actually approved it.
Okay. So I think we, motion to approve, agree with that.
Yeah.
And so the next item under new business is our added item B for the EOC discussion.
I can talk about what I think we need, and then Bob can go into more details. But basically, and make sure I'm not telling them incorrectly, Bob, there's one thing that we need to do, and it's about $6,000 to $7,000, because we have to file it with the feds, and it needs to be filed at this point. And it's basically doing a comparison with their mental health versus our other health coverage to make sure they're comparative. Is that the best way to put it? It needs to be done as quickly as possible. We need to go ahead and contract out with the group. What I would like to also see is that we hire them as an optional, and we can bring you back the price where we sign that portion on, is for them to review the complete EOC for option 1 and 2 for health. I'm not as much worried about dental at this point or vision, because they're not covered the same scrutiny as your health. But the health itself, I would like to see the EOC to actually have somebody that specializes in this to look at our EOC. If we were fully insured, we would have Blue Cross Blue Shield, which would basically provide us an EOC. But with us being self-insured, we create our own EOC. It's been created over many years. I've worked on it several years. Ms. Dennon did, people before me, Bob, everybody's been involved in it. At this point, somebody that specializes in it, that's been running this many years, I think would be very advantageous on the plan for somebody to look at it. Make sure we're not in non-compliant anywhere with, ACA or anything.
Well, this actually came out of the passage of the Consolidated Appropriations Act by Congress, which covered a lot of stuff, but this is one of them. And little background, Leo was looking at this. We had gotten a quote from FIA, is the legal group that does this work, and give that to Leah. Leah was looking at, and I didn't completely understand this, she was looking at Sumner County being able to opt out of this. I'm not really sure if, I think getting some legal advice would be good before you, well, I think I can opt out and then do it. So I think if you have that report from a legal source, then you have, a foundation to make your decisions. I need to speak to FIA, the group. We have no connection with them. We are not paid anything for your doing this. All of those would be between you and them as far as invoicing or whatever. They do not give us whatever or take us to dinner. They're in Boston. But the reason we recommend them is because they are highly recommended by the Self-Insured Institute of America, which is the leading group in the United States that supports and helps groups like yours that are self-funded medical and property and casualty. And I've served on some of that organization's boards and so forth, and I've been able to see these people's work product and hear testimonials from other people who have used them. And they are very thorough. They've done the work for some of our other municipal clients as well. So that's why we recommend them, that you do that. And it gets down to the actual law is dealing with a thing called NQTL, which is non-quantitative treatment limitations. There are certain things in a plan that are implied or in general dealing with mental health, where over on the medical and the surgical side, it's very specific on limitations. So this is to take subjective matter and give you an opinion about plan changes that may need to be made to your plan to make it compliant. And then that report that they produce, you file with the government, you're done. You know that your plan is, you're not gonna get a surprise registered letter in the mail.
That's the one at $6,000 or $7,000 that we're 99.9% sure we have to do unless we some way can't opt out we're not aware of.
And
But-
just to restate, we haven't done it in a long time, we're gonna do it, and we won't need to do this again until the law changes, maybe tomorrow. But,
Unless you make major changes to your,
and we're anticipating $5,000-6,000,
well, the last time they quoted it was 6,
yeah.
so it's like everything else in the
There'll be a
last
little bit more.
4 years has gone up. So we would anticipate some higher number than that, but, and like David suggests, what we would ask them is, okay, we want to do this, but we want an option for you to review both our option 1, option 2 medical, EOCs. So we can make sure there's not something else hiding out there in a period and a comma or something else that could cause trouble.
And give us
And then you can do that or not do that piece.
and give us recommended changes to comply with whatever we may be out of compliance. My only concern is the plan's been running many years, and somebody that specializes in this is, my knowledge, never looked at it. And if you're fully insured, you don't have this issue, but we're a self-insured plan. We create our own EOC, or the board does. So this is a self-created EOC over many years with many federal changes over the same time period and moving pieces. I think it would be very advantageous to hire a group that specializes in that and look at it at this point versus everybody else guessing. The first one, I think it would be very advantageous to prove it to where we can move ahead, but then the other one authorized maybe me and Bob to go out and get a quote on the other portion, the optional portion. And then if,
Right.
I don't have any discussion, you, Bob?
No, I mean, I feel that getting somebody else to comment on this that is in the business is a whole lot better than us just sitting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you got, yeah.
I so move.
So, second.
are you moving to go ahead and retain them for the required portion and get the quote for the second portion, or go ahead and do all of it, or which portion?
Do you feel like it's, I mean, we haven't done it for a long time, so it's not urgent, we can go ahead and get a quote for the second one and bring it back next time.
I think.
And then see how the first piece flows through.
I think go ahead and authorize us to get the first place
Yes.
based upon, they told us 6,000 should be less than 10, I would dare say.
I don't think.
Yeah,
it'd be
by
that much.
any means, if it's over 10, I think just have a Bob and us to email you guys to make sure. But, just authorize us to do that and get quotes on the remaining portion to bring back. But I think it's very advantageous on the optional to bring it back to you, let you look at it, and I think you probably need to go ahead and do it unless it's very far out of.
Alright, so appropriate up to 10,000 to get the first piece started. And then, approve for them to go out and get quotes for option 1 and 2.
Is that your motion?
I so move.
Second.
And I promise not to tell them you did that.
We'll get the quote for them, watch
As
their.
far as I'm concerned, I'm asking for 6.
Oh, yes, thank you. I
Unless they-
appreciate that.
Go online and read your minutes. I mean,
That's okay. They're
Well-
very diligent. I appreciate their diligence.
If they manage to do that.
Brittany's a hawk on the checking things on the interstate, so, not interstate, internet.
So, does anyone else have any items to add? Mr. Mayor, you have anything? Excellent. Nobody has anything else? I say we adjourn.
Second.